If you're a facilities manager or an HVAC tech in a building, are you in jeopardy of being replaced by a machine? Hi, I'm Eric Stromquist from Stromquist & Company and ControlTrends.com. Ken Smyers and myself have both been master distributors of building automation controls for over 30 years. We've seen lots of changes. Back when we started, pneumatics were prevalent. We watched as building automation controls first gained footage and began to grow. And I got to tell you, with IoT and artificial intelligence and everything else, things are changing quicker than they ever have. Okay, to answer the question, will you be replaced by a machine? We reached out to automatedbuildings.com, Ken Sinclair. Ken is one of the most knowledgeable people in the industry. You should check his publication out if you haven't. And the following is an excerpt from an interview we did with Ken. Watch till the end because the answer will probably surprise you. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Give us a like, give us a comment. Let us know what you think about artificial intelligence and automated learning and how you think it's going to affect the smart building and HVAC controls industry. Thanks for tuning in.
The following is a presentation of the Control Trends Podcasting Network.
We appreciate it. I guess we should just start with maybe you got to be intelligent before any of that's relevant, right?
Actually, you're quite right. On one of the tweets, they actually picked that up, and they just pointed out that the intelligent part is us. We keep forgetting that. I think we try to imitate the artificial piece of artificial intelligence rather than the intelligent part, and it's hard. It's harder to be the intelligent part.
No, I was just going to say, Ken, that it's another great addition. Just keep it coming. It is an amazing benefit to our industry that you're able to grab all this new stuff coming out and start to make sense of it. Because when I was reading some of your entries here in your first your editorial, when will we ever see artificial or automated intelligence come into being? I mean, we close? I mean, like when you have our, like say, Scour Foundry, and I mentioned, you got somebody collecting information, data, somebody wrote a program, so you autonomize or automate, the collection of data, send it somewhere where it's being processed by another, basically program. So we took the humans out of the elements. It's going from, machine information back to computer machine information, and it completely lives. Is that, in your opinion, artificial intelligence, or what is that?
Well, what I'm sort of striving for is that we maybe try and redefine that a little better. Once it's done, and once it works, and once it's successful, I believe what it is automated intelligence.
Right.
And what we've done is we've learned how, and we probably did that through augmented intelligence. And we may have used artificial intelligence from computers to create that. But in the final analysis is when it's done, it's actually a couple of lines of code in this machine and a couple of lines of code in that machine, pushing information back and forth. So really all we've done is, does that look any different than the DDC loop? Or, it's just artificial, or pardon me, automated intelligence. I keep getting my words mixed up here. The other thing is, took a look at Wikipedia and how they define artificial intelligence, and it's totally clear that they're confused as well. And one of their best definitions is that artificial intelligence is what hasn't been done. And I kind of like that definition too. Is every once in a while we hear somebody thinking about something that's never been done, and they actually believe that they can do it. And once they do it, I think it changes. I think it is no longer artificial. I think it's either automated, it's either augmented.
Ken, you're going to go down the history books for this, because Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am," and now I think you've just rephrased that to, "I think, therefore I'm artificial."
Well, actually, there's a good one. Whoever chose the acronym for this broad method of having machines outthink us, and they called it artificial, and it's like,
oh wow,
artificial has never been a positive word. I don't think it's an adjective that you look real artificial.
I think it's optimistic thinking on our part. But you told us a story right before we turned the recorder on about the two machines in the camera. Will you tell our audience that story? Because I think that is is very interesting.
Yeah, okay. What kind of goes along like this is as we start to automate intelligence, we have two machines. The first machine is a ring at somebody's doorbell, and it sees the person walking up and pre-records it. And when they push the button, it sends that pre-recording to another machine, and the other machine determines whether it's going to allow that person in. And there's all this data going back and forth. But when the artificial intelligence machines, they start to, so the decisions are no longer made by people. The two machines, they get together and they say, these people are so dumb. Why did they bother generating a picture and sending a file when in fact all we really need is the data? Because we don't know what a picture looks like anyway. We just know what the data looks like. So we see that face, there's a data pattern. When we see that data pattern, that's what we let the person in. So all of a sudden, this gets really scary because they can do stuff faster, quicker, and better than us. So that's sort of getting into what I think artificial intelligence is when the machines start mocking us, which I think they may be doing a bit now.
Well, but Ken, I mean, this is what Elon Musk and some others have really gotten up in arms about and concerned about. And he's a hell of a lot smarter than I am. But okay, so let's take that same conversation between the two machines. And instead of they're so dumb, they got, why do we don't need a picture to, they're so dumb, why do we need them? So we got them in the building over there. Let's talk to our friend, the building automation system in building X, and we'll tell building automation system to lock all the doors and turn the heat on and override the bypass on the boiler so it blows up. That's one way we could get rid of them, right?
The benefit is exactly, I think too, it's an artificially gained intelligence where we don't have the capabilities innate to ourselves. We turn it over to our algorithms that are powered by IP connectivities, and zip, we get the benefit of this artificially provided intelligence.
Maybe I'll go back and spin off of Ken's comment is that his definition of artificial is anything that doesn't involve us. And I think, I'm not sure about you, but I'm not sure I want to talk about anything that doesn't involve us. So that's why I'm back to automated intelligence and interaction. Yeah.
But the other component has to be the self-learning aspect of it too, right? I mean, that has to filter in whether it's automated or artificial, that it can begin to learn, right? With the self-learning algorithms, that's got to be a piece of it, I would think, Ken.
But I'm not sure that I don't see that as that's again as an automated intelligence is basically it's just learning how to better automate is another perception, a way to look at that. Anyway, it's early days. I don't know if you caught the end of one of my articles there. Then I talked about awful-mated buildings, and we went through a period. It's actually a 2002 article that I included linking to, and what happened with this was as we hit the web. So we went through the DDC. We went through awful-mated buildings several times. We went through awful-mated buildings in the early days of DDC. We had all these DDC systems that didn't really work, but they were so exciting that we kept on pursuing until we actually figured out how to make those things work. And then we hit the web, and we started getting a whole bunch of stuff. Is the web controlling this? There's a DDC controller. We had those. And I don't see this as any different. We're exactly in the same spot, except we've got this intelligence automation that's kind of falling from the sky on us, and we're into another period of awful-mated buildings until we get this straightened out.
What do you see some of the possible headwinds? I mean, in terms of the problems, when you say awful-mated, I mean, obviously when we went from pneumatics to DDC, there was a learning curve and things sort of had to get worked out. Do you see anything different with the awful-mated controls now?
It's going to go faster. There's going to be more people involved in it because of the IoT industry, and ultimately, I think what the problem is the bend back to what Ken said is that artificial is defined as things that don't involve us, and I think if we turn loose a machine, it's it's not going to run the building the way we want, whether it attacks us or even if it doesn't attack us, it even tries to run it to the best of its knowledge. It's going to need some guidance, and we need to learn. So what I see the intelligent automation phase era, and that's the era I think we're in right now, is we need to learn more about what we can do with this technology, how much we can machine learn, because we got to learn how to walk before we can allow AI to run our buildings.
Well, I agree with you. And again, it's always fun to take things to an immediate the furthest point from reality or likelihood. But in the in your March edition, you also we have another great article and great background to some really heady thought, but actually it gives us the nuts and bolts of it from Sidha Yamthi again, and how she takes the example of the autonomous vehicle and how what it does, it reduces the risk of life. It reduces it frees humans to do more things that the car can do. It alleviates you from doing work. It's like the amazing thing that the locomotive did versus the horse and buggy thing. So she has a great article in there. What did she bring to you as far as the her insight using the autonomous vehicle analogy to our buildings? I mean, it's a great article, but I thought, what was your synopsis of that?
I think I summarized it in a tweet this morning, in the fact that we were pushing back and forth some stuff, and I said that the having your driverless vehicles running into our buildings, I think is really good stuff, because this whole autonomous side of the automated vehicle has a whole bunch of social issues. It has a whole bunch of quick control things you were talking about. There's no way that that some of this stuff can be controlled so quick. And that's of course the second part of our theme. We're talking, the theme is the automated intelligence with autonomous interactions. I don't know that we've really thought of it in two pieces like that. Here's the intelligence of what it is we're going to do, and then as soon as we do it, there's a reaction. Let's put in another control loop to control the reaction. And I think if we look at the auto industry, they're spending scads of bucks on this, and they're moving through. So I think we need to kind of try and understand better what they're doing. Ironically enough, her articles this month are right on our nose, talking about what they're doing in Stanford there. And the young girl on energy prediction is amazing. It picks up on last month and fills right in. And she's particularly well spoken, and she speaks to it. I think what we also have to get used to is people are going to call it artificial intelligence, or call it augmented intelligence, or automated intelligence, and we're going to get used to the fact that maybe it's just best we call it AI, and then substitute our own definition of that.
Connotative definition. Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah. Well, okay. So the next article.
I don't know. I want to hop in real quick, if you don't mind, Kenny, before we get to the next article. I think one of your buddies is responsible for all these annoying phone calls I'm getting from these chat bots.
Oh yeah,
those damn things are talkative as hell. But speak a bit, if you would, because it seems like we might be going from a GUI, graphical user interface, to a CUI, which you've been talking about for a while, but now I see it in black and white, and I connecting the dots here and going, inadvertently, Ken, you're responsible for all these damn calls I'm getting from these machines.
No doubt, no doubt. My only defense is they all come with an autonomous interaction, and the autonomous interaction is if you don't ever answer the phone or say hello, they don't do anything. So if you actually can outthink them, so if you when it comes, you get one of these chatbot calls, if you don't say anything and nobody says anything for about a half minute or something, you can just hang up because it's no person. So anyway, the what do we call it?
CUI.
Conversational user interface, text, voice, and more. So we're seeing this. I mean, it's running rampant now with speakers and all kinds of devices. that actually have the Hey Googles and the Alexas built right into them. And I think we're going to see more and more of that. And now what I think the conversational user interfaces is that now devices will start talking like that, and we can start using WhatsApp, WeChat, iMessenger, and some of these things. And actually, the very quick segue is that we could actually text to turn the lights on. The big advantage of that is it keeps a record of all of the commands. You can say to your wife, "You turned the heat up," and she said, "No, she didn't." And she says, "Oh, it shows at center time you put it up 5 degrees." So
yeah, you know what? You know how that conversation goes.
Yeah.
That damn machine is obviously wrong, Ken. You're not going to win that argument.
Or call my lawyer.
Yeah.
Actually, I was going to bring that up. Early when Ken was talking about how carefree these machines could think, and I think that was the biggest single thing, is that machines can move without lawyers. So that's the thing that immobilizes us all.
Well, then you know what? There might be a silver lining after all, my friend. Ken, you had a question for Ken.
No. I just, again, there's so much to talk about. I every time we're bringing something up. So again, it's a collection of jewels, I think, because, going over the March articles and how they come together, like you say, it's like a phenomenon. You start a subject and all of a sudden something provides, it's like willing it into being, like you get this critical mass, and all of a sudden people are also thinking that way. And just that part from Sid, the article from Siddha Jamthi, the contributions inside that article are immense, because it talks about the energy, the automatic provisioning of in other words, if we had a limited amount of energy on the grid and we had to sustain the most important critical buildings and whatever, and we're going to one day rely on that to be done through. I just watched a presentation on a new drive coming from Siemens. And this drive is already smart grid ready. In other words, it's ready to go to the next level and not go into the network, but go right to the cloud. And it can put eight VFDs on an application, and it can alleviate BTU meters, because the VFD can calculate the flow and see how many BTUs you're using, saving. I'm thinking, holy moly, this is another thing that you were talking about. Right before we have our session here, I listened to this. And I'm thinking, this is getting really, really interesting, because if you could put this artificial intelligence or augmented intelligence or automated intelligence to work, we are going to become a greener planet quicker. We're going to be able to use this to take the best steps forward. But I think what you said true, that if somebody doesn't answer the phone, guess what? Nothing happens. No artificial or augmented intelligence occurs, because if people don't start using this technology in buildings, we're not getting anything done.
Well, yeah, but you're saying it's reactive now, meaning you have to initiate the step, but that's pretty easy.
You have to make the step. You have to take the investment. Right. You have to invest in technology.
Right. No, you have to invest in technology. But your point, which is a very valid one, like your Ken's point about the phone, if you just don't say anything,
right,
it doesn't activate, the program.
Chatbot.
Yeah. But I think that's kind of a very calm, good thought. But then eventually it'll be where they'll just be proactive. They'll figure out, well, that's Ken Sinclair again. I'm just going to start damn talking, because I know he's not going to say something first. And then, then they'll start sending pictures or something to you. It'll be crazy. But
I think this might be the edge of the awful-mated buildings and awful-mated interfaces and stuff that we need to work out. And I think that's why we have to be involved in this too. I'm not sure that artificial intelligence is going to be able to figure that out and come up with any better solution. What it would say is the solution we don't want to hear is they don't ever talk to a human. They're just impossible. Only talk to machines.
Well, it's funny you say that, because, I was thinking while you were talking about what's the definition of artificial intelligence, Kenny had a good one, you had a good one. And I was going to say that, well, you'd have to have an original thought to not be artificial intelligent. But then I think about it, I'm not sure us humans have many original thoughts either. There's some of us who do, but It really is fascinating. And then what I am really interested in, forget the buildings. I'm serious about this, putting the chip in the brain. I mean, having augmented intelligence on board connected to your mind. And Musk has been working on that. So it's literally, you're not going to have to go to school anymore. You're just going to buy the chip for American history, and you'll know everything you need to know about it.
Actually, I think I was really pleased with Teresa's article this month, and I think it came partly from her going up and spending some time with the folks at Bedrock in Detroit and watching what they're doing up there. And she came out and she's picked up on this theme, and she calls it the community of practice in building automation. You can actually even drop the building automation, because it's basically, I hadn't seen it so clearly as she depicts it, that we all belong to a community of practice. And both of your supply companies are communities of practice. And basically that's what you're selling, and that's your value. And automated buildings is a community of practice. People who actually believe in somewhat a common belief of how we might automate buildings. We also have things like BACnet, which is a community of practice. We have Niagara. And basically what's happening is they're becoming the building blocks of our industry. And this is how we build stuff, is when you find a community of practice that you haven't been exposed to, you guys are all excited. And then you figure out, how can we make that community of practice part of our community of practice? And that increases your value. That's a lot of what I think we all do, is basically share this information. The advantage of attaching yourself to a community of practice is it comes complete with resources, people who understand that. And we need to keep creating those and basically distributing that information. So anyway, I think that's going to be our next direction. That won't be the theme for April, because the theme for April is going to be cybersecurity. But halfway through it, I'm going to write an article on the community of practice, and just kind of tie all of these communities together. And if you just let your mind roll and think, how important are all those things to your business, your everyday business? I mean, you could say, you could almost, you go down your drawers there, or your aisles, and you say, this belongs in the BACnet, this is a Niagara, this is a Johnson, this is all of them are communities of practice that you're doing it. What's your big claim to fame? One of your big claims to fame is that you cross over many lines of communities of practice. That's
sure. And Ken, I think when I read that, I had this word pop out that kept coming up with that. It was your collaboratorium. In other words, the thing that I think I've witnessed, or we've all witnessed, but in particular, is how quickly certain things get done when there's that collaboration or this community of practice where you overlay all these experts and all these leading pioneers, because we're talking about three things right there that were all articles. Project Haystack, and their biennial Haystack Connect conference is coming up in San Diego mid-May. ControlsCon, Scott Cochran, he's got a great spring conference coming up where Cochran is going to share a great deal of information, regarding new technologies and things that just it's very important. So yeah, I dig that community practice. It makes total sense what you're saying and what Tree says. But
and can you see it? I shared it on your screen.
Cool graphic. Can you see?
Yeah, that she went back to this Nydia and got approval to reproduce this graphic. But if you kind of just read all the little things that are written around there, that's what you do every day, right? Listening, challenging, buildings, sharing, everything that's on that thing is basically what your companies do to pull together your community.
Give and get, support, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So just it's kind of, I don't know. We used
authentic.
To talk
we always say about how you have to filter because there's so much out there. The generational engagement. So there's our young guns. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So it's kind of amazing that this is kind of a map of who we are and where we came from. And I think we need to work more on this map so we can better understand what I might be talking about, because I probably don't understand what automated intelligence might be. I think what we have to do is kind of maybe do an intelligence inventory.
No, Ken, listen, you're missing the whole point here. Look, I'll have my machine call your machine, and they can have lunch and figure all this stuff out. We're not going to have to communicate anymore. We'll just have the machines will have the community of practice. That's where you're going with this, right?
Well, I don't know. Look at all
Eventually.
look at all the touchy feely things on the docket there. Yeah, that's one thing machines aren't.
Well,
Like
yeah, like you're saying, caring, healing, and listening are new superpowers. Yeah,
yes,
I'm going to tell you something, though, but you have to ask yourself a question: is empathy, which is what all those things are, is that a learned skill? Because I told you this on a show before when I was in Southern California about 2 years ago, the debate on the radio, because they just come out with the sex bots and they were teaching them artificial intelligence so they could be more empathetic. And the debate on the radio is if you had sex with a sex bot, were you cheating? So it's, it's, if you think about it, I think empathy is learned. We teach our children how to be empathetic. I think, at least I think that we could debate that, whether that's an innate human quality or if that's something we just learn when we get culturalized by, growing up by our parents and going to school. And if it is, if that's the answer to the question, then we'll be able to program it into the machines and they'll be more empathetic than we are.
Well, to Ken's point, I think that's both. I think that's what you can't put inside artificial intelligence or machines is you can't put that innate stuff in. You have different psychologists saying different things, but we all come from the same well of consciousness. We pass through, what's his name? You had different Freud, and Freud's colleague came through with Jung, where we all, with this guy, Joe Campbell, travels the world, 150 countries, and how 150 different countries come up with the same basic, belief system, about, how you got here and where you're going afterwards, But to your point, I think the subjects that we're talking about is that this thing almost looks like a 1970. Remember how we did the we generation, I generation, we generation, or the me generation, we generation? It almost looks like our whole concepts are taking a different direction, where it used to be individuals. There were the major players in the industry and they dictated stuff, and now we're seeing all this technology come in and it's just dumping all these new possibilities, and so this community of practice, to me, is an extension of basically the thing you did with the clavatorium. I've never seen so many people be willing to share so much what used to be like a sensitive information or proprietary information, but they want to get something done. And in order for them to get their agenda done quicker, they collaborate with somebody that's also doing something better than they are. And instead of each trying to create their own wheel, they're putting together this community. And it's an amazing thing, because Haystack we're going to talk about Haystack at some point, and we just have to celebrate what they did, because that's what they did. They did this amazing linkage of a lot of people that couldn't really define how they were going to get there. Somebody laid down a map and then people contributed to it, and next thing you know, you got a yellow brick road.
Well, listen, I want to, Ken, follow up on your last episode, or excuse me, last month's edition, because you know what? You have become quite a cult hero amongst the young guns in our industry for numerous reasons. But the big one is, and I'm going to ask you to expand on this, is, when you disrupt disruption. And so one of the questions we got from our community is, ask Ken, talk about the process of disrupting disruption. I mean, how would I do that? Because, seriously, we're bringing in, we're kind of like a hero to these folks now, Ken. How do we disrupt disruption?
Well, I think it's interesting once you learn how to grow younger, which is a skill that takes a bit, and you basically bring these guys on as trusted advisors and start to understand and try to get inside their heads, or at least closer to it. You understand what the significance of being a digital native is. I mean, we're looking at this from such a wrong way. We keep going off on these tangents they don't even think about that. They grew up with all this stuff falling on them, and they understand. They don't have the fear of the machine that we do, because they understand the machine. They understand data. They give it the data. We take the data away, and I think they just see it in a completely different light. So for them, disrupting disruption, although they do it to themselves as well, because they're way ahead on the front. Some of the stuff they're disrupting is totally amazing. I barely understand, but our disruption is easy. It's easy to disrupt us, and disrupt the disruption is easy as well, because our industry is slow to move, and we're actually starting to see some of this stuff coming. We're actually seeing Wi-Fi sensors. We're seeing the wire disappearing in our buildings, and more devices, more IT devices starting to appear. So that's very disruptive, but inside of it comes a gazillion opportunities, and we're getting where we had like a very small slice of the industry. Things that we're involving now, we're involving in a greater piece of the industry. So I don't know. Did that answer it? Wasn't a very good answer.
I was kind of hoping you'd say something like, we got to kill the machines or something like that. We got to rise up.
Well, listen, let's transition.
That's what I was going for. But
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. Again, you got an amazing.
But you'll have to kill the kids first, because that's they're becoming closer and closer to these machines, and they'd rather talk to the machines than us.
That's true. I saw somebody put I don't know where it was, LinkedIn or somewhere, but it had all these kids in this beautiful museum in front of one of the most classic art, and they were all, not a single child was looking up at the art, and they were all on their phones and looking at each other's iPhones or smart devices or whatever, and it really caught it all, to be in the middle of our world, thinking that we had put these things on the wall to to epitomize the highlights of humankind, and our loftiest artists, and these kids just totally not interested. And so
except it's funny, because sometimes the guy's looking at it, and what they'll tell you is that's not really the original. The original is in Spain, in this small town. This is a copy. It's funny. They're always checking facts. Like you assume that sometimes they're doing something different, but sometimes they're just way ahead of you and looking at.
I'll tell you what, I learned my lesson on that when we were talking about an old timer walks in the office. Johnson Controls had a conference a couple years ago. Eric and I were at it, and they explained the mistake. They had invested so much money in recruiting the top young guns they could possibly get their hands on, and then they were losing them after the second year, and it all boiled down to their boss. And the one classic example they gave through, where they had the out briefing, and the people could hear what they were being accused of, or the boss's criticism from the young person's perspective, and here it was that the guy thought they were all screwing around on their smartphones, and they were actually doing work and research, because the companies, their computer system was so slow and lagging, and they had so many securities to it, that they couldn't get the information they needed to complete the project that was due. So they were actually doing double time, using their own device to get some information that the computers that they were given to as their work computers couldn't perform. And so it's just, but he looked outside, he said, everybody's playing with their phones. They're playing games. There was an assumption that they were screwing off. And here they were very, professionally, trying to get the dang job done. And they were being, they were being hindered by. Anyhow, you've got a couple good articles. This thing by Mark Peacock, and it's got a nice picture, and it says, the built environment has been changing drastically. But what does Mark say? He says, "Is 2019 the year of truth for the built environment?" And he has all these questions. He has, will 2019 be the truth that our dialogue centers around the proven technology? So what do you think about that? It's like the 10 commandments of the built space.
Yeah, it's good. I've included in my article a link to it. It's super. Mark always is very succinct in being able to kind of pull that around. And it's okay. So maybe this is the truth of artificial intelligence that I'm talking about, is that I'm saying, maybe we don't want to call it that. Maybe we want to call it automated intelligence. And I don't know, sometimes by just calling something different, you start the discussions. And I think that's what I really want to do, is start the discussion.
Well, Ken, I think you got to add on to your name. It's going to be automated buildings and intelligence. How's that?
That's right. Well, the other problem is, if I didn't call it automated intelligence, then that'd be obsolete. I'd have to, there was two choices. I either had to change automatedbuildings.com to artificialbuildings.com. And I don't think that would have sold, would it?
No.
After 20 years, automated buildings turns to artificial buildings. So we had to go to automated intelligence.
I like that. I do. I'm voting for the automated versus art. I don't like artificial either. Now that you think about it, because
Right.
it always meant something, not necessarily sinister, but not necessarily as flattering as it could be. In other words,
Right.
artificial means something that's made up and not genuine. And so maybe we will help the next group of solution providers change it from artificial intelligence to automated intelligence.
So Ken, listen, the March issue is out, automatedbuildings.com. Be sure to check it out. Ken, will you be able to hang around a little bit longer and talk with us?
Sure, I can.
Okay, Ken, so where are you going to be traveling this spring? It looks like we might be crossing paths a little bit.
Okay, well, we're off to Detroit in early May to ControlCon. We was just before this conference call, I was talking with Scott and the Bedrock, Joe from Bedrock, and exciting stuff happening there. Actually, he just come back from Korea, and going to be some amazing stuff. I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you. But
well, don't do that. We're going to be there too, so it's going to be good times.
Yeah,
and,
I could know, but if I told you today, I would have to kill you. But once you're there, it'll be okay.
Was Scott in Korea, or the guy from Bedrock?
Actually, Scott was fighting icebergs in a ferry coming out of the lake or something like that.
Oh my!
He was driving in his car. I asked for video, and he took his phone and held it up against the windshield and told me I was driving. So
nice. So listen, you can still go there. There are links both on automatedbuildings.com site and Control Trends. Hey, if you get a chance to go to this conference, it's fantastic. And the next big conference we got coming up is Haystack, and our next guest is going to be able to talk a bit about that, Kenny. So how about introducing him?
I'd love to. In fact, I'd like to introduce Rory Barnwell. He is a group principal at DLR. And the DLR group was recently recognized at the Control Trends Awards because they won the Project Haystack Award. And that's a very, very exciting thing. And we're very happy to welcome to the show Rory Barnwell. Welcome to the show, Rory.
Hey, Roy. Good to see you again, buddy.
Hey, guys. How's it going? Great to be here. Great to see you all.
Yeah, see you too. You were on episode 222, and I'll always remember that. It was great, lively conversation, and